Mexico's Tren Maya is an impressive 1,554-kilometer train route that circles the Yucatan Peninsula. In this series, we take you with us as we explore the entire route. From amazing archaeological sites, crystal clear lakes, amazing beaches, colorful colonial towns, magical cenotes, and delicious local foods, we experience it all.
First archaeological zone from Valladolid is Cobá, and it was about a 50-minute drive.
Yeah, we could have done it from Puerto Morelos, but it would have been a 2-hour drive each way, so we waited. There are multiple entrance fees here. First, you have to pay 100 pesos each to get into the ejido. Then the actual archaeological zone is 95 pesos each, and we had to pay 60 pesos for parking. So it's a little on the pricey side, but nothing compared to Chichén Itzá, as you'll see.
Upon entering, we were greeted by this very curious and gorgeously colored turkey. So we had to pay an extra 50 pesos in order to record, but now we're inside.
And behind us now is La Iglesia, which you can see is a giant structure. There are tons of groups here, so it is a bit busier than we had expected, judging by the parking lot, but it is a very popular site that is located near Tulum and isn't that far from Playa del Carmen either.
This is the first of 2 ball courts at Cobá. This is also a Mayan site, and some of the oldest buildings date back to 50 BC, but the peak was between 600 and 880.
And the other thing that we've noticed is that there are a ton of structures that have actually not been uncovered, like the one behind us here. It looks like it is just a pile of rocks, but you can tell that it's really like a little pyramid.
Behind us now is the main pyramid, which before COVID you could actually climb.
So kind of sad you can't do that anymore. Some say this is the tallest pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula, but Bacan, Calakmul, and there was another one that we visited, put the name on the screen here, also are all in this like range of like 136 to like 142 feet. So since they're all so close and measurements vary, they're kind of unsure which is actually the tallest.
So all these roads that you walk down through here were actually made by the Mayans, and they were used to get between cities and other towns. They're called sacbes, and they're all limestone lines, so you could see them at night.
Yeah, because obviously it's very hot in this area, and they didn't have air conditioning in cars, so they took these roads at night a lot. We did just finish up at the main pyramid, which, as Dave mentioned, you can't climb anymore, so it's kind of anticlimactic. But we are heading on to the other group, which is near a little lagoon, and we're going to go check that out.
All right, so there's basically 3 ways to get around in here. 1, you can rent a bike. Number 2 is you can rent a taxi, which is basically a trike with a 2-seater on the front. Or you can just walk it, which is what we did.
Yeah, they try to scare you. They say, oh, it's like 4 kilometers, it's 5 kilometers. Every guy you run across, he says it's further than the last guy. I'd say in total we've probably walked about 3 kilometers, and we probably have about a half kilometer back to the cars. And we've seen all 3 groups. There are 3 separate groups here. The other cool thing here at Cobá is there are a bunch of stelae that had hieroglyphs on them. And a lot of them point to long ruling females. Which is kind of unique, especially, in ancient times for women to have ruled for 30 or 40 years. So I think that's kind of interesting.
On our way out, we caught a glimpse of some spider monkeys playing in the trees.
It took us about 2 hours to see all 3 groups of buildings at Cobá on foot. So you definitely don't need to do the bikes, but you can if you want. I think we saw at the entrance that it was like 100 pesos to take the taxi one way, or you could get the taxi for 250 pesos to tour the whole thing. And I think it was 60 pesos to rent the bikes. But now we have come just up the road to El Restaurante Chile Picante to have some well-deserved beers and local food.
Well, this morning we are super excited. Back in 2000, they developed a list of the 7 wonders of the New World. And in 2016, we visited the Colosseum in Rome. In 2017, we explored Machu Picchu in Peru. In 2018, we walked on the Great Wall in China. And now, today, we are getting ready to check off number 4, Chichén Itzá.
We got up before the sun, about 5 a.m., to get ready to come here and hopefully beat the crowds, because today is Sunday and residents and citizens get in for free. So we figured there'd probably already be a line, and we got here at 7:15, and there is already a line to get in. We talked to a guy outside. He said they're actually going to start letting people in at 7:30, and the place isn't actually supposed to open until 8.
Yeah, so I think they'll let us get parked and let us buy tickets early.
So we made it into Chichén Itzá, and so have a lot of other people.
The good news is the only fee we had to pay was 110 pesos to park and then 50 pesos to record. If you do come on a Sunday and you are a resident, know that there are 2 different lines. There's one for extranjeros to pay at the ticket counter, and then there's a little tent set up to the side where if they look at your card, they'll just hand you a pre-printed ticket. Then we were able to get through. You're not supposed to be able to use mics or tripods, so we took them off of our camera, and we were able to enter with just the 50 for the camera itself. It is pretty impressive so far, I have to say. I wasn't sure, since we've been to so many ruins, if we'd be impressed, but so far so good.
Look what I can do!
you're not allowed to climb the main pyramid anymore. However, it looks like no one told this dog about the rules. So of course we had to go check out the pyramid of Kukulkan, which is the main pyramid here. Then we went over to the Temple of the Warriors, and after that we went to the Plaza of 1,000 Columns.
It is amazing the difference just a half hour makes, because when we first came in, we were able to get photos in front of the pyramid with no one behind us, and now it's really starting to fill up quick. At this point, we are in front of the platform of eagles and jaguars. It has a bunch of very intricate carvings. It has skulls. It has eagles eating human hearts. And it's thought that the two warrior classes were the eagles, which were the archers, and the jaguars, which were like hand-to-hand combat. So pretty cool.
So now we've come to the largest ball court in Mesoamerica. And if you look at the walls in this thing, one of the rules for this game is that the ball can't touch the ground, and they use the walls to bounce the ball off. And from what they say, the steeper the walls, the harder it is to keep the ball from hitting the ground, and the walls here are pretty steep.
Yeah, they're practically vertical, so this must have been a very hard court to play on. One thing that's great about this site is that all of the carvings and buildings are in great condition, and the reason for that is that this site started to be built in 800, which is when a lot of other sites we visited were actually being abandoned. And like the Great Pyramid was built in stages, but it was completed in the year 1000, and some of these structures were built all the way up to the year 1200. So relatively speaking, they're kind of new.
At this point, the vendors were finishing setting up, so they were starting to call attention to their wares. So we made it to the section known as Old Chichen, and we're in front of the observatory, which they use to track planets and stars. And there is one part that's a little bit older, but it's not accessible to the public.
Yeah, they were very big on observing the stars, especially Venus. And of course, they came up with one of the most exact calendars, the Mayan calendar. Another building that we saw earlier was actually called the Platform of the Tombs by the Spanish, because they assumed that it had to be a tomb, but it wasn't. It was another observation platform. So kind of cool.
The section of the site called Old Chichen was by far our favorite. Not only were there less people, but there were also some of the most intricately carved buildings at the entire site. There are 2 cenotes here at the archaeological zone that are open, and there's also 2 of them below the structures.
And the reason for this is because the Mayas believed that cenotes were a portal to the underworld and therefore the perfect place to make sacrifices.
So when you come here, you're going to see a lot of vendors. We had one vendor say to us in English, you can buy my things for $1. And I say, no tenemos dólares, which we don't have dollars. And he's like, 10 pesos. That's like half the cost. See what a difference a couple hours makes. This place is absolutely packed with people right now. So we just finished up at Chichén Itzá. It took us about 2 hours to get through all of it, and it was definitely worth getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it started raining just as we left, but we had just seen the last cenote, so it was awesome. I would say that our experience would have probably been different if we had had to pay full price to get in, and if we'd come on a bus from Cancun, we would have probably been arriving at 10, 11, 12, and it was super crowded just as we were leaving at like 10, 15. So we had a lot of the buildings to ourselves, and we had a much more quiet, serene experience, and of course we just paid the 110 pesos to park, so it wasn't an overly expensive experience for us either, but we absolutely loved it, and I would say it is one of our favorite archaeological zones. I definitely liked the old Chichen part best, and it reminded me of some of the stuff that we saw out when we stayed in Espujil. So we drove about 20 minutes down the road to La Tía De Kaua, which is supposed to have some of the best Pok Chuc in the area. The country collectors came here after they went to Chichén Itzá. Hopefully they're open and ready to go because it's only about 10:30. Okay, so David's got the longanisa and it comes with bean soup. We of course have limes, onions, and a homemade salsa, molcajete. These are handmade tortillas, and these are handmade tortillas that have been fried up in manteca or lard. And then this is a tortilla that actually has an egg cooked inside of it. I also have the bean soup, and then I have the Pok Chuc. And then of course we have sparkling water and beer.
Georgia's Pok Chuc was so delicious I had to get one for myself. Even after all that, the price was very reasonable. Today we've driven about 2 hours to a salt factory.
And as you can see behind us, this isn't just any salt factory. This is known as Las Coloradas, and it is because they have different evaporation lakes in order to collect the salt from the ocean water, and they turn different colors. So there's an orange one in front of us and the most famous pink one behind us.
So we just paid the entrance fee for Las Coloradas, and it was 350 pesos per person. We should have got, well, I think we should have got a discount because we're temporary residents, but they didn't give it to us. They said they would only give it to permanent residents.
They said because it's private property, it's not an arm of the government, they only choose to honor like real Mexican full-time residency or citizenship. So we did have to pay a little bit more. The tour is pretty short. It said it was 30 to 45 minutes, and you can do it in bike or in like a Jeep, or you can just walk. And so we're gonna do the walking tour. Well, final thoughts on Las Coloradas is that it is really expensive. 700 pesos is definitely not cheap, especially for only a like 25-minute experience. But I don't know where else in the world I can see naturally occurring pink or orange water like that. I mean, it is the bacteria that creates the color. It isn't artificial in any way. And it was pretty amazing to just stand in front of this giant Pepto-Bismol pink pool of water. So you'll have to make your own decision on whether that is worth it or not to you.
To me, I really don't think it was worth it. It was kind of cool, but for that much money, I would rather do something else. Now we've driven about a kilometer down the road or so, and there's a little beach access here. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, the beach looks very pretty. There's no like restaurants or bars or anything, but they do have little palapas for shade, so pretty nice.
So we've driven an extra 20 minutes down the road to Rio Lagarto.
This place is known for its nature boat tours because it is in a biosphere, and we are currently at the restaurant Ria Maya, and the reason it is Ria Maya is because in Spanish Rio is freshwater and Ria is saltwater, and behind us here is a saltwater river. One thing I forgot to mention about if you go to Las Coloradas is make sure that you do go around noon, because you need the sun to be reflecting to get that pink color, and also go on a clear day, because if you see in our videos as the cloud rolls over, you can see that the water kind of darkens. So if you want that Pepto-Bismol color, it needs to be sunny and midday.
So we just finished up our lunch at Ria Maya. The food was actually really delicious, and the view was great. He also gave us binoculars to look out over the water to see the birds on the other side of the lake.
Yeah, they have white pelicans. At first I was excited and I thought that they might be flamingos, but they are not. He told us the flamingos aren't here yet. So flamingos are usually here. They start coming in March and then they stay April, May, and June, and then they start leaving at the end of June, beginning of July. Right now they're actually in Celestun, which is really close to Mérida and Chelem, which are actually our next stops. So we are going to do one of the boat tours there to see the flamingos. We're not going to do a boat tour here today. They, in addition to having flamingos that you can see, there are obviously pelicans. The pelicans here are both American and Canadian pelicans, which I found out today that Canadian pelicans are white. And that's what made me think that they were flamingos. But you can see those. There are also crocodiles and tons of other birds that you will see on the boat tour. It is like 72 today, and it is quite windy and cloudy, so it feels colder than that. And I just don't think we would really enjoy being on a boat on the water right now. So I think we're going to head back to Valladolid.
Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them down below. And if you haven't already, check out last week's video where we show you Puerto Morelos.